thank you very much to the UK Investor magazine for inviting me to come and speak today. It's so nice to be back in a room and suddenly not in front of my computer wondering who's doing what in the background and how much attention I'm getting. So thrilled to be here. So for those of you who are new to SulNOx, I'll give you the introduction, set the scene as to why we're here and why we're important, and then I'll take you through why you need to invest and get involved. So firstly, my name is Ben Richardson, a former banker, but please don't hold that against me. I joined SulNOx as a non-exec back about 18 months ago, and pretty much just saw the product and what it could do at a time when the world needs help, and we can reduce the amount of fossil fuels that are burned, reduce emissions, and generally do good while we transition. So I became the CEO, and I've been banging the drum for the last 12 months. So decarbonization. So we've all heard this word, but a few of us don't really know what it means. The long and short of it is that we need to wean ourselves off of fossil fuels as fast as possible. And we've all talked about Kyoto, we've talked about Paris, we've talked about COP26, but the stark reality is we unfortunately are still burning ever-increasing amounts of fossil fuels, and we haven't peaked yet. And we've got the issues where we have slippage in China with their 2050 target slipping, and in India to slipping to 2070. So still a major hill to overcome. Many of you will think because you've got an electric car, or you've heard about wonderful new technologies out there like hydrogen and green ammonia, that we're already there. But unfortunately, we're still a long way off. Even the best lithium-ion batteries are 100 times less energy dense than petrol. So if you can imagine, it's fine for us with our car. It sits there 90% of the time. It's 1 to 2 tons. You can charge it very easily from your home. But a ship, a plane, they need to be moving 95% of the time to be commercially viable. And you couldn't, for instance, put 100 times the amount of fuel capacity on a plane, which currently reduces its fuel load as it flies. So long way to go there. Hydrogen's been around for years. I remember the experiments when I was a kid with the electrolysis and the bubbles coming off. Again, great concept, but the infrastructure just simply isn't there. Not even in the developed world, never mind the rest of the world. So many years to come before it develops. And then alternative fuels, well, great, they're there, but again, not commercially viable. And much of the shipping world still very much reliant on heavy fuel oil and other very low sulfur fuel oils. So I mentioned the word stark before. This is the stark reality, and the picture tells us 1,000 words. So we unfortunately are still going to be reliant on fossil fuels for many years to come. Our own, or the International Energy Agency is stating that we're all going to be consuming in the transport space fossil fuels until, well beyond 2030, and even 80 to 90% by then. So an EV revolution here, but not everywhere else. Shipping, a huge amount into climate, as I've mentioned already, and shipping consumes very vast amounts of fossil fuels and emits an enormous amount of CO2. The problem with shipping is that the ships that are going to get built in the next 8 years are going to be the ones that are still around in 2050. So even with the advent of ammonia and hydrogen, we are not going to be able to solve that problem anytime soon. So luckily, there's a solution for the transition, and here I am to tell you about it. So who are SulNOx? Well, we are a company that's been around for about 10 years. What have we been doing for all that time, you may ask? But we have been refining and patenting our fuel conditioners. So we are now listed on the Apex segment of the Aquis Stock Exchange, and we're soon to list in Americas on the over-the-counter market. and that will enable us to gain further investors and particularly green investors. So what we do is we invent these all-natural, biodegradable fuel emulsifiers and conditioners, and they work by optimizing combustion. So we make the fuel burn better, and thereby meaning you need less of it, reducing emissions and dramatically reducing fuel consumption. And the fuel works, the SulNOx works for all industries burning liquid hydrocarbons. So anything from you and I in our cars all the way up to refinery levels. Many of the major companies of the world have these commitments to ESG. They still burn an enormous amount of fossil fuels, and they really don't know how they can reduce their carbon footprint. So there's lots of noise about how they could do it and lots of green talk, but SulNOx is an actual immediate solution to reduce fossil fuels, and it's available now, and it's available in scale. So increasingly society demanding more of these companies. What are you doing from a green perspective? But also clients. Clients are really important. They're saying, well, I could go with you, but I'm going with them because the fact is they're using something which is making their footprint greener. So increasingly clients' demands are to ESG, which is great for SulNOx. We are there to help reduce emissions and make a great ESG story. So very important. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about I've got our petrol fuel conditioner here. So this is something that you and I can buy on Amazon, and we pour it into our car. Obviously, the idea is that we get it into the pumps, but again, going back to my activist clients and customers, we're not quite there yet. We're just getting going. But in principle, we have three products. One that works, this fuel conditioner works with all petrol, all diesel, all biofuels, and the less viscous heavy fuel oils and marine fuels. The second product is a pure emulsifier. We can add up to 30% water with it and mix it, which is great for reducing costs and reducing emissions. So we've shown that this product, which is unlike any other out there, is able to stay mixed with fuel and water for 5 years and counting. So a game changer for those of you who know the science. This is called ship slops. At the moment, it's taken away and it's treated and burned. It's basically a waste product. What SulNOx can do is turn that waste product, which ships currently pay people to take away, into reusable and actually enhanced fuel. And so this is a really exciting product that we just developed now. It also works with crude oil. So tankers that ship crude oil around the world, we can take that crude oil that's washed out of the tanks and turn that back into use. Importantly, though, as I mentioned, we don't make the products. So and this is incredibly important. So the company Nurian is owned by a private equity firm called Carlyle Group in the States. The company is formerly Asco Nobel, or ICI for those of you as old as me remember that long back. So a massive global chemicals company. And what they do is they make the SulNOx product, and they make them as green as possibly can. So the products are all natural, they're biodegradable, but Nurian makes them in the most sustainable way in terms of the way it sources its products and its processes and how it treats its staff and all the good, the S and the G that go with ESG. So we chose them. They're winners and proud of their EcoVadis Gold Award. So we don't have any waste refinery products in there. Most of those will have naphthalene or xylene or other waste petroleum products, which do not actually reduce emissions. They don't improve your fuel consumption. All they do is make the fossil fuel that's in there burn brighter and harder. So if you imagine squirting lighter fluid on a barbecue, that's what's happening when you're adding a typical fuel additive. What we're doing is improving the way that the fuel burns, and we do this in 4 ways. And here they are. So this is the sciencey bit. So if anyone needs a quick snooze, now's the time. But it's at its core, SulNOx has powerful natural emulsifiers, as I mentioned. What emulsifiers are? They allow two things that don't want to mix and stay stable for an extended period of time. This is the case with fuel and water. They don't want to mix. So the SulNOx emulsifiers use the free water that's in fuel, and all fuel has free water in it. It's legally allowed to have 200 parts per million. Many have more. And through condensation, water will build up in fuel tanks. So we take that water, we pull it into the fuel, and then as it goes into the combustion chamber, the water that's encapsulated by the fuel heats up to 100 degrees and vaporizes. And when it vaporizes, it scatters the fuel particles, which enables more oxygen to come in because there's more surface area for the fuel to get. So we in effect add a way of enabling better combustion that way. But in addition, diesel particles, particularly, and those more viscous fuels, they're very big, so oxygen cannot penetrate. So there's always an oxygen deficit. So what we've got is a clever substance in this in this conditioner here called a glycol ether, and when it breaks down in the combustion chamber, it releases more oxygen. So we're giving more oxygen and using any water that's in the fuel to enable that combustion to happen. But we're not just making the fuel burn better. What we're doing is we're improving the whole fuel journey. So you're putting it in when you're filling up. It's taking the water from your fuel tank, then it's going to your pumps, to your filters, and it's cleaning everything along the way. Poor combustion and deposits will mean carbon deposits build up and other deposits, and we're cleaning and removing those deposits. So your car is or your bus or whatever form of transport or user of hydrocarbons is getting everything cleaned all the way along the fuel journey. And what it's also doing is it's adding lubricity. And what people know, engine oil works below the rings in an engine. We are adding lubricity to the fuel above the rings. So lots of friction in the engine, up to 40% lost with energy, lost to friction. Energy lost to friction, I should say, and we're reducing that friction by as much as 30% in chests. Difference. And let me show you some pictures about the. So this is a shipping trial that we had for a 4-month or so period, and there are 2 ships' engines on the ship, one without, and this explains why we get so much power improvement. The engine on the left, you can see that it had flaky carbon buildups on the bottom of its piston, whereas the one on the right with SulNOx is completely clean, and this is because of the surfactants and detergents cleaning everything. So in the test results, we actually improved power by 19%. We improved torque by 15%, and these numbers are enormous for the shipping world. And when you add the fact that the engine temperature is reduced and the exhaust temperature is also down, meaning less NOx is being produced, it's huge for the emissions story. Again, on the left, fuel injectors, they spray the fuel out. Obviously, if the holes are blocked, it's not going to spray fuels as well as it should be doing. So these are the stats which are very compelling. So at a time when we're all suffering from raised fuel prices, and as we just noticed, obviously big question in the audience, SulNOx is actually able to reduce costs by 10% there or thereabouts. So for cars, recent studies show a 13+% improvement in combustion. So if you're filling up and it's costing you £100, if we're taking 10, 15%, 10, 13% off of that fuel bill every time you're filling up, or you're going 10% further in your kilometers or miles, it's a major fuel saving, and this is why it's a game changer for all the big users of hydrocarbons across the world. So in addition, because of the lubricity, because of the way we're cleaning everything and giving your vehicle or the mining vehicle or the big ship a constant service in a way, we're also saving on maintenance costs. And I can give you an example. Trucking companies been using SulNOx for a long time. I'll show you the stats in a minute. They think they're saving 2% in addition to their 8% fuel costs. So they're not having to replace their particulate matter filters. They're not getting the trucks towed back to base because they've broken down, because they've gone into limp mode because of poor fuels and combustion. So another big story there. And on this page here, again, unlike all other additives, we have letters of no objection from the big trucking companies like Volvo, MAN, DAF, and Scania, because our fuels do not take, our product does not take fuel outside of the bounds of the standards, and these are the standards listed here for for Europe and for the Americas, and also for marine fuels, which is why Lloyd's is up here. Okay, so it's not just fuel cost reduction. It's also huge environmental benefit. So we should all be thinking about how we can reduce our carbon footprints. Quite obviously, buying an electric car that takes many thousands of miles before it becomes carbon reductive. Maybe 60,000 miles of driving it before it starts to pay back the carbon footprint from creating it. SulNOx, on the other hand, is immediately starting to mitigate emissions, and so it's fabulous for the circular economy. My old Toyota has done 200,000 miles and the engine runs beautifully. Suspension, not so good, but I can't help that. But to give you an idea, it's adding many years to various vehicles. Not so important maybe in the Western world, but in Africa, SulNOx is making a big impression. So on the left here, you can see, in addition to the reduced fossil fuel consumption, we're actually able to dramatically give a huge return on carbon. So the calculation here is that 1 litre of diesel, when it's burned, emits 2.6 kilos of CO2. To dose that with SulNOx only takes 0.5 millilitres. So a tiny amount, one little bar on this amount that I'm showing you here. So an 8% fuel saving, which we typically see, gives a 16,000 times return on carbon. So I'm sure you can see from a carbon credit perspective and scope 3, which is where all the new reporting is going, SulNOx can make a massive dent, and it's an area we're looking to explore. But it's not just greenhouse gases, it's particulate matter. So the black stuff that comes out of exhausts, that is simply unburnt fuel. So we make it burn better, means the black stuff reduces. And you can see here the PM10s, the soot, that reduces by 50%. But the PM2.5s, these are what cause stroke, heart attacks, etc. And those are reduced by 60+%. So the stat I like to quote here is in Ghana, where we have a massive presence now, more people die from air quality issues, 28,000 a year, in fact. So more people die from that than AIDS and malaria combined. So to give you an idea, and that's the PM2.5s that we're massively reducing. So you're not just saving money, not just reducing greenhouse gas emissions, you're improving air quality every time you're using SulNOx. So here are some real world examples. The global opportunity for trucking alone is many billions. A conservative estimate here, if the world fleet used SulNOx. Same sort of story with buses. Again, this trial with this company, they saved 9% and considerable reduction in CO2, and another similar massive opportunity for SulNOx. But the big prize is really shipping. So the example here is a ship that burns 300 tons of fuel a day. And yes, it's a big one, but it's one of the biggest. Typically, a ship will burn 30 tons of fuel a day. And if we extrapolate that that's another market of multiple billions for SulNOx. And that's assuming a global fleet of about 60,000, where it's probably double that. So overall, it's a huge market, and it's a huge opportunity that we are just starting to get involved in. The estimate we have is that we can enhance 70% of every barrel of oil. So we can improve every diesel, petrol, heating oil, heavy fuel oil, biofuels user on the planet. So it's hard to replicate. It's all patented in over 70 countries now, and or patent pending, I should say, just to disclaim it slightly. And it's not something that's easily replicated. But it's not just a fossil fuel solution. I've talked to you about fossil fuels so far. At its core, SulNOx is an emulsifier. So every E number on food, that E is for emulsifier. We're all natural products. Some of the products in here you will already have eaten or certainly come across in your day-to-day lives. And we can use that emulsifier with our technology to improve the world of food. We can allow things like cannabis oil and water to mix and stay stable for longer. And using ultrasonics, we can improve the bioavailability. So it's all about how quickly can the pain relief be administered. We can improve that by developing the products. The new novel foods and botanical extracts can also be enhanced. We can improve shelf lives by making the products have less additives and stay mixed for longer. So it's not just a fossil fuel story. That's where we are now, but obviously it's something to invest in for the future. So the number of client engagements goes up every day. For those of you who potentially heard me 4 months ago, I think we're now at the knee of the curve. So 12 countries generating revenue at the moment, 7 more on the way in the near term, which I will announce in due course, and more people around the world selling to their networks. So we have sales organizations, distributors in about 60 countries now. So that's growing nicely. The margin on the product is fantastic. So we're protected raw material costs going up, and I would like to just draw you to the final right-hand side here. We are a team of less than 10 in total. The idea is that we keep the cost to a minimum. We don't make the product. That's made by Nourian. They can get it anywhere in any size and scale, anywhere in the world. We don't sell the product as a rule. Obviously, clients come to us, that's fine. But typically, the sales organizations do that for us. So we're a lean board with no real need to spend much more money. So the costs of 1.5 to 2 million now should not increase significantly. But if we got one shipping company of scale, that would be 10 million in revenue. So you can quickly, with the number of ships of 110,000 in the world, you can quickly imagine how costs are down, revenues are high, can quickly become a very profitable and dividend-paying company. And that's what I aim to achieve. And in case any of this financial story hasn't wowed you and you're not going to immediately buy SulNOx tomorrow, by the way, Hargreaves Lansdown should be going live from the 4th of July for those of you who are HL investors. Then this is the story. We haven't got much time. We've all got to do something, and we can do something immediately so that the hill for the future, where we all hope we'll get to with hydrogen, etc., can be mitigated as much as possible. So with that, I'll say thank you very much and ask anybody for any questions. Thank you.